So I'm back. I watched two other music films yesterday, both of which were, again, more like fake films, not documentaries. And this first one, I had no idea. I hadn't heard of this film until Criterion recently released it. And I found out, like, it's a cult classic and everyone knows about this movie. And somehow I just never knew about it, even though my favorite song of all time is by David Byrne. So how did I not know about this movie? I don't know. That is True Stories. This is his only film he ever directed. It's written by Stephen Tobolowsky, who is best known as Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day, and Beth Henley, who won a Pulitzer Prize for her play Crimes of the Heart. It was adapted into a movie starring Jessica Lange and um, Sam Shepard, and she also has another really great play called Miss Firecracker. I think it's the Miss Firecracker pageant or something like that, but the film is called Miss Firecracker. Very good. She wrote a bunch of really idiosyncratic Southern films in the 80s. And True Stories fits very well into her oeuvre. So it's going to be a film that is mostly talked about through the gaze of David Byrne and David Byrne as an auteur. But I think it's very important to mention that Beth Henley, working with Stephen Tobolowsky, took sort of this idea Byrne had and made it real. Um, and taking her out of the equation is selling her short and her creative prowess, especially if you look at this film in the context of the other films that she wrote in the 80s. There's a third one that I'm trying to track down called Nobody's Fool with Rosanna Arquette that also looks equally as zany. So don't discredit your writers when you're talking about cinema. Thank you very much. Um, this is True Stories, and it is inspired by, supposedly, David Byrne while traveling with the Talking Heads. Talking Heads. And I said my favorite song was by David Byrne. It's This Must Be the Place. Fucking great song. Um, so good. He, while on tour, would read these tabloids and things, and he thought, like what, and not just tabloids, but also local papers and stuff, where he would just read about really interesting people. And he had invited Tobolowsky and Henley to dinner one night, had all these clippings, and he was like, we need to turn this into a movie. So they gathered all of this stuff and turned it into this really strange, amazing film that is set in a fictional small town that's about to celebrate its 150th anniversary. Texas is about to celebrate its 150th. And this town, this fake town, is about to have a celebration of specialness. And there's a lot of very strange characters that float in and out of this story. There is no straight narrative. It's just sort of a travelogue, if you will. David Byrne plays the narrator. He's nameless. He wears a really nice black cowboy hat. And oh my, David Byrne at this age was beautiful. About the same age that I am now when he made this film, and this film came out when I was born. So apparently David Byrne is double my age, which makes me feel a lot of strange feelings. The closest thing to a plot is John Goodman's character, who you meet in a clean room as a clean room technician at the fake tech core that is near this town that this film takes place in. He is trying to find a wife, and he pops up throughout the film in various attempts to find this wife, to find a woman to love him. He is very fashion forward. He gets to wear some really cool clothing, to be honest. I loved it. There is a development civic leader played by Spalding Gray. Spalding Gray is one of the great actors of the 80s, great performers of the 80s, who has not spoken directly to his wife in 15 years. And there's this really strange dinner scene that the Byrne narrator observes as they tell their kids to talk to each other, but they don't actually talk to each other even though they're in the same room. Bizarre and amazing. You have Swooshy Kurtz playing a woman who never leaves her bed, which, if you've been watching my video reviews, it seems like I never leave my bed either. I do. I just do a lot in this bed. Pillows are nice. I don't know what to say. There are various other people. There's a woman who continually has these crazy things that she says. She's played by Joe Harvey Allen, and she says she was dating Rocky and that she, was going to be a star, but they were like, you're too close to Pat Benatar, and all kinds of even wilder lies about everything she's seen in the world. Um, Very fun, bizarre film. Does not really like. I'm surprised such a film was given money to be made because I don't know what the high concept like pitch line would be because I don't even know how to explain the high concept of the film. Like it's impossible. It's one of those films. Um, like I'm watching as I was watching it, I was like, I'm not even sure what's going on right now, and I don't even care. I'm enjoying every minute of it. He attempts to find beauty in moments and places that are often dismissed, like suburbia. Suburbia is awful, and I hate it. And I would never live in suburbia. But I will completely admit that there is beauty in almost everywhere, and the way he describes the beauty of this particular suburbia is very poetic. Um, there's an interesting bit inside the mall where he makes the case for the mall becoming the new town square, which was 100% the case in the 80s. And then, of course, now the town square is gone and the mall is gone and the internet is the new town square, and that's terrifying. And there's this amazing, absolutely amazing fashion show that starts out almost kind of a normal fashion show and then gets just progressively weirder until people are wearing the most elaborate designs and one woman falls off the stage in a moment of both horror and hilarity. And it's really a movie celebrating the ordinary people and how ordinary is such a misnomer for people because no one's ordinary. There's a lot of strangeness in this world. Um, and this film does a really great job of really celebrating that strangeness. I loved it. Probably pick up the Criterion now and watch all the special features. So the last one I watched, I'm not going to talk very much about this one because it was hard. This is Saul Swimmer's Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, and it is the second of two Herman's Hermits movies. And I love Herman's Hermits as a musical group, but boy, this movie was a mess. It had really regressive uh, stance of women. Like all of the women are such horrible stereotypes, and none of them behave like a real woman would ever behave. Um, Peter Noone is as charming as he can be, which is not as charming as you need to be to lead a whole movie. Basically, he is playing Herman, and he inherited a race dog, and they sing songs at various venues to raise money to put this dog in racing. Meanwhile, he also falls in love with a model. That's the entire plot, and it's just I kept every 10 minutes I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm still watching this movie, and it's almost 2 hours long. It was a long, long slog. The songs are not peppy enough. The plot is just not intriguing enough. The dog is not shot enough. There's not enough of the dog to make it worth it. Um, the dog's name is Mrs. Brown, and then the girl he meets is Mrs. Brown's daughter, but not Mrs. Brown the dog. That's how you get the title. Um, it just was so regressive with the way the female character was allowed to be that I couldn't handle it. So that's really all I'm gonna say. It's an artifact of its time. Again, much like the other films, it captures this band at a certain time in their creative life. However, unlike the other ones, it doesn't have anything universal to say, and it doesn't have any really added value to 2018 other than you get to see what Peter Noone looked like in 1968. So for Herman's Hermits, super fans only is really what I'm going to say on that one. So this was David Byrne's True Stories and Saul Swimmer's Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter. I recommend True Stories. 100% find the Criterion cut too. It's streaming on Amazon, and I don't know if it's the widescreen version or not, but the version that's on Filmstruck and in its full Criterion edition is this new beautiful restoration. It's widescreen and it's great, and the Criterion disc is widescreen. but almost all older iterations are not in the proper original aspect ratio, and you should avoid that with all costs. So check out True Stories. If you're Herman's fans, check out Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter. Otherwise, you can just let that one go back into the ether. And again, it's Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of pie. I'm gonna go see a Gary Winterond photography documentary because that's how I roll. Have a good day.